Hello, this is the Growth League podcast. My name is Caleb Clark, and my mission for this show is pretty simple. It's to learn from marketers on how they're playing the great game of marketing leadership. Their ideas, experiences, perspective, wins and losses, and the playbook that they've established over time. Listen, there's more than one way to lead a marketing team and a marketing function. So if you're a VP, a CMO, director, or someone aspiring to fill one of these marketing leadership roles in the future, tune in to learn from some of the best in the business.
What happens after you market? Like, what is the follow through? Right. And I think too often marketers spend so much time on the front end, like making beautiful things. Totally. But then what happens when people come to your website or call you or walk in? And that's where the sort of digital mindset and the training you learn is like, it's always about the next step that the customer is going to take, bringing them down like a funnel of activity to ultimately land them somewhere and close the deal.
Right. Welcome. My guest today is Tanya Andreadis, the CMO and Vice President of Patient Engagement at Penn Medicine, and before then you were the CMO at UCLA Health, and actually before then at Penn as well.
Yes.
So welcome to the show. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. How's your time in Banff so far?
I love Banff.
Yeah.
I just need more time out in Banff.
How many gatherings is this for you now?
Third. Yeah.
It's evolved quite a bit.
Every year I come and I think, oh my God, this is the best conference. Next year can't be this good.
No. And it's the best because it's not a conference, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know. So tell me and tell us a little bit about your journey as a marketer and a marketing leader. Ultimately, what brought you back to Penn in this case?
Yeah. Gosh, I've been in marketing for 20 years, in healthcare marketing specifically. And I started because a friend of mine needed somebody to come help her. She worked in a hospital, a little hospital in Virginia, with their websites, and I was a technical person. Okay. So I thought, all right, I'll try healthcare, and I got a great job. I had to come in to this little hospital in Virginia and help revamp all their websites, and then I ended up being the digital director there. So from there, I went to Florida and worked at a big health system in Florida. From Florida, ended up in Pennsylvania, at University of Pennsylvania, leading their digital teams. Okay. So my original focus in marketing was always the digital side of marketing. And my lens on it was always, okay, performance marketing, measurement, UX, that's kind of the way I thought about the world. I also had content and kind of all the people who produced the stuff under me, but not the strategy part and not sort of the bigger picture part. Then I went to UCLA where I had the honor of being the CMO there, and it completely opened my eyes to the branding and sort of big image, less about the performance marketing, more about who are we, what do we stand for, kind of, aspect of what we do. So I absolutely loved working there. I was exposed to a different way of thinking. In LA, everything's bigger, and in Pennsylvania, we make ourselves smaller. It's like this Pennsylvania humility. I think they call it the Dutch humility.
Oh yeah.
And in LA, it's the opposite. In LA, everything's much bigger. So I learned how to take risks, I think, more in LA, and to partner and to find like-minded people and not to be afraid to say, hey, we're doing this really cool stuff, you should come be a part of it. Where previously in Pennsylvania I would never even have considered, because it's just like, oh, we're just this marketing department, we just work in healthcare, we're not important, you know? So bringing that mentality back to my job now at Penn as the Chief Marketing Officer and Vice President of Patient Engagement, which is my favorite part of my job, has been really exciting, because now I have, the way my team is structured is I have a growth team that's very performance marketing structured. Okay. And I have a brand and reputation team that's really thinking, and they do strategic partnerships as well, and they're really thinking about who do we stand for, what's the big picture, how do we keep pushing that forward on a national scale, on a global scale. And then I have sort of all these support functions that support both, so analytics, creative services, website and UX and digital, and I'm leaving something out, I know. But so coming back to Penn, having the ability to balance the performance marketing side, which is critical for our jobs and to continue to justify return on investment, and then the how do we just make a big deal out of ourselves, because we are a big deal side that I learned from UCLA.
How do you consider it a benefit, or how do you how does your experience on the digital and the performance marketing side of things influence your your brand side, your brand and high level strategy vision? Does it allow you to marry the two together nicely because of that?
Yeah, I would say I think one of the biggest advantages I've had in my career is being a chief marketing officer started in digital.
Right.
It's never that way. It's usually the other way around.
Yeah.
And so I have a really keen understanding of not just like the tech stuff. I mean, that's just lingo you learn, and
Sure.
I have an aptitude to understand how it works. But more importantly is what happens after you market. Like, what is the follow through?
Right.
And I think too often marketers spend so much time on the front end, like making beautiful things.
Totally.
But then what happens when people come to your website or call you or walk in? And that's where the sort of digital mindset and the training you learn is like, it's always about the next step that the customer is going to take, bringing them down like a funnel of activity to ultimately land them somewhere and close the deal.
Right.
So
that's a huge advantage, having
Huge.
that order of operation as it related to your career.
Yeah.
You described some of the mandate, but how would you very simply describe what do you get paid to do at the end of the day?
Oh, that's a good one. What do I get paid to do? I think I get paid to be creative and think out of the box and sort of push people to think differently. I get paid to lead a great group of people and to get the best out of them, to bring our creativity and our performance marketing and sort of the art and science of marketing to solve the business problems of the organization. I get paid to problem solve. Often, I feel like I was thinking about this the other day. I'm here with two of our physician scientists, and that's what they do too.
Are they smart folks?
Oh my God. I know. I get paid to figure out how to deal with really smart, genius people, including them. But yeah, I think they also problem solve. It's just a different aspect of problem solving. And I often am getting like, we need to do this. How's marketing going to help? And
Right.
It's this constant problem solving.
Do you have processes or systems or infrastructure, whether they're formal or more felt, that allow you to, say when you're driving home every day, know with a high level of certainty whether or not you did a good job?
That's a great question. How do I determine if I'm doing a great job? So we have, obviously the metrics that we all look at that are important because it like keeps us just, okay, we are continuing to like attract attention, right? But I don't know that that's the right measurement of doing a good job. When I feel that I'm doing a good job, I'm getting that feedback from my peers, from the leaders of the organization. I'm getting that feedback from my team. People are feeling proud and excited about the work that we're doing. And we are proud of it. It's like this sense of, like sometimes I'll drive by, like we have train station takeovers, or we are partners with the 76ers, and I'll see something we did, and I'll just be like, I love that. That makes me feel like we're being successful.
That's awesome. And it's a really, really good reminder to not put too much emphasis on the ROI, ROAS, attribution models
Right.
to define I've made impact.
Right.
It's kind of a combination of both.
It's both.
If marketing and marketing systems and marketing leadership were a game and defined as a game, what is it about that game that you enjoy playing? Why do you like this?
I really enjoy thinking of a smarter, better way to communicate something.
Okay.
And we're often asked to do, we're thought of in many ways as a service business as opposed to a strategic
Right.
part of the organization. But when we flip that narrative and we're seen as strategic partners to meet business goals and to drive organizational priorities, that's exciting. And where it plays out in our everyday lives is just all the people who want stuff from us and come and say, I need this, I need a website, I need a blog, I need a newsletter, I need a thing.
Yeah.
And when we're able to turn the conversation and say, no, you could be more effective if you think about it like this, Don't waste our time with silly stuff, but here's a strategic way to achieve what you want to using us.
Man, such a good reminder about, can you hear me?
I think the audio went out.
Can you hear me on your end?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. That is so good because so many marketing teams and systems inevitably at some point turn into the order takers to
yes.
okay, well, flip this in, flip this out. But simply by asking the question, what business case are we trying to solve with this? What it does is obviously redirect what you're going to do, but it also, the next time a request comes in, there might be some thought given to, maybe I just won't make this request because it doesn't actually mean anything.
It doesn't actually mean anything. I don't know what my goal is, so I'm not going to talk to them.
So that's your job, to protect the team. Part of your job is to protect the team and your resources to focus on stuff that matters as compared to getting shit done.
Busy work, right.
Okay. No, that's cool. Yesterday I watched a film. Yeah? And I had to leave the film because I have a 4-year-old daughter and a 4-month-old daughter, and I'm a huge softie, and I'd like to watch the film, like finish it at some point. But tell me a little bit about the origin of that and what does that mean within the mix for you guys? Yeah, I can't even really talk about it right now.
Oh my gosh, I went after the film. I've seen it twice, and I was crying like for an hour afterwards. But it has a happy ending, so
stay for the
ending. You have to remember that. I was like, wait, it all worked out. It's okay. So of Medicine and Miracles, we can't take credit for in marketing, except for the fact that we did this great work in CAR T cell therapy, which is a new way of treating cancer. We treated 2 adult men who were also cured of cancer, and they're a huge success story. There could be films about them as well. But that got a lot of publicity. So, this is credit to our communications team. They got the word out. It went everywhere. And because of that, the director, Ross Kaufman, who developed Of Medicine and Miracles, took an interest in the story and in science. He wanted to do something scientific. Mm-hmm. So I think as he got into this and started learning more, there's just so many layers. Like the mom in this I guess, scenario was always capturing footage of her little girl. So they had so much to work with. And there was this parallel story of Carl June, who's really a Penn superhero scientist who figured out CAR T along with his amazing team. He lost his wife to cancer, and it just changed everything for him. Mm-hmm. And then you have the dad, who is probably why you're like, forget it, I have to go. You can't handle it.
Too much.
Who's just this amazing man who's just like being driven by his love for his daughter and this higher power. And then you have this little girl and her story. And we're just lucky that we have this great story to tell. I wish I could say, I created this story, but this is the kind of stuff that happens where the places I work. And I think our jobs are to figure out how to tell more of those stories. That's just honestly one of probably 100 things that we could share like that you would say, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. Yeah. And it's all emotional because it's people's lives.
So beyond the mandate of everybody on your team, sort of what they're supposed to do, is there seems to be a bit of maybe a burden of responsibility to tell these stories or something more that's pulling them into the office every day.
Yes. And I should have said, everybody who has a role in marketing has a job of storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Cutting onions in here.
Yeah, I know.
No,
it's
so whether it's at Penn or at UCLA or in experiences in the past, have you had experience in working with external partners in addition to your internal team? And if so, what has been your playbook on creating the perfect marriage in those scenarios?
We do. Agency partners.
Agency partners.
Yeah, we do, of course. And over the years, I've had multiple models, I think, from being heavily dependent on agency resources to doing a lot more in-house to kind of a hybrid. Mm-hmm. Where we are now is in that hybrid place. And I guess we look for partners who are okay working with other agencies because we never know at what point who's going to be engaged in what project.
Right.
And we look for really good thinkers and also people who not necessarily have healthcare experience, because sometimes those people can be boring, but people who can pick it up quickly.
Right.
And so we're always looking for talent because we know that we can't do it on our own. The amount of work there is to do is just not, it's not possible for our team to do it.
Right.
And we need new ideas and new thinking and sort of interjection of expertise that as we get, we get sort of tunnel vision or whatever the word is when you're so in your own organization. And we really rely on our external partners to come in and say, hey, did you think of this? Or you guys are going way too far down this path. People, are doing this now. And so we do. We have a digital agency. We have a media buying agency. We have another creative agency. We have several, sort of smaller firms that we work with.
Do you have any thoughts to share on most effective, or at least the most effective way for you to onboard said agency?
I think agency onboarding is critical, and I didn't realize it, I don't think, until maybe in the last couple of years, particularly in our field, because it's so complicated. So we just went through this process, actually, and I learned a lot, where meeting the team, meeting the leadership, getting sort of a full understanding of all the pieces and parts. So I think there's a tendency sometimes for somebody to say, okay, I just need you to just buy my media, and they don't get to know anything else. Yeah. And my perspective is the more that they know, even if they're not accountable for it, the easier it is for them to be a strategic partner. So introduce them to our other agency partners, introduce them to our internal creative teams, and really make sure that we have strong relationships. That's the focus, I think, of the onboarding.
That's great. Marketing can be sometimes kind of a vague gray box, and a lot of times as we grow in our careers in marketing leadership, there's a lot of different voices and opinions and people saying, hey, you got to do it this way, you ought not to do it that way.
Yeah.
Over your career, how have you been able to sort of quiet some of those voices and remain committed to a direction that you've established for yourself and your team?
I don't think I have arrived yet. My feeling is we still do too much paid media. We do too much. I'm trying to convince you to come in. We're heavy on acquisition, but we don't have a demand problem. It just doesn't make sense. It's not, so this is, healthcare's moving faster than we can move. Now we have more people who need healthcare services than we have people to take care of them. And I think our role now really needs to shift heavier into the experience side and thinking of ourselves in the retention business. So it would be nice if I had this path and I'm going to stay here and I'm going to stick to it. But I feel like I have to change and the team has to change. And we're trying to keep up with the change of the world right now and the demand on healthcare services.
Yeah. That's interesting you say that. When there's no demand problem, yet we still
market.
We still market, and we put levers out that are meant to drum up demand. Is that just this is the way it's been done, or why does that happen?
We used to have more of a demand problem. Post-COVID, there's fewer healthcare workers. This is a global issue. There's more sick people. Yeah. A lot of mental issues, health issues, a lot of just things that people didn't take care of for many years that have become more pressing. And we're busy, but we still have to compete. So it's different what we have to compete for. Now we have to compete for healthcare talent. We want everybody to work for us. If you're going to work in healthcare, we're the place to come. We have to compete for scientists, and the geniuses that I brought with me here today, they could go to Harvard, they could go to Stanford, they could go to Oxford, they could go to so many places. But they're at Penn, and we need more of people like that to change the world, and that's what they do. We need donors. Donors make science possible, and so we compete for donors. We want, people are saying, I want to give money to curing cancer, to think of us first. So it's a different thing than come in today to get your doctor's appointment, which is where we used to be.
Which that side of it is very different for us Canadians, of course, because we don't have private.
Right.
And
I know.
It would be fantastic if we did, and that needs to happen. But different podcast.
Different issue.
I'm curious about these scientists, these folks that you brought here today. What has been their reflection on coming to a brand conference? Like, and why did you bring them?
Oh gosh, I brought them because I thought what they're doing is so cool, and so many people could learn from it. But they're always talking to other scientists, right. And I thought this place that's so driven by like mission and sort of has a higher purpose as a marketing conference was a good fit for them. They're doing really incredible work in a new concept called cancer interception, which is it's pivotal in the way that we think about cancer. It's before screening. It's before you even know you have cancer, we're going to stop you from having cancer because we understand your genetic makeup.
Right.
And so the work that they're doing will be the foundation for work that will be a completely different way of dealing with cancer in the future and other things, other immune-related diseases. So I brought them here to tell that story because I think it's so cool, and I want to see if other people think it's cool, so I can figure out how to tell more of it. And then the second part of your question, which is so funny, because the person who runs video for us, Matt Curran, who's amazing, is here, and he keeps saying, are they just like bored, or they think we're so mushy and emotional? And
right.
You know, they go places and they talk about really important like things that are beyond our imagination, and we're talking about the way we feel. But they love it.
Yeah.
They love it.
What did they say? Yeah.
They said it's just marketing people. They said marketing people are all extroverts, and they know how to have fun. And I think I'm really getting this, so I think it's just different for them.
Similar to what you were talking about with the agency thing, where you expose them to the whole picture so that they can better orient themselves in their craft. I wonder if that happens in a way here, to see like what does the end story look like. Oh, that just dramatically improve or enhance the significance in my mind of what we're doing.
I absolutely. That's sort of the other benefit for me is they get my world.
Yeah.
So they can be better partners, and I can help them more.
Empathy,
yeah.
Your job and your mandate demands a lot from like energy, drive, all of these different things. So that just doesn't happen automatically. What do you do to sort of fill your cup outside of the 9 to 5?
Yeah. I like to come to events like these. I talk to people outside of marketing that give me inspiration. I have a really fortunate position that I'm very tightly connected with operations folks at the different hospitals and for access and operations, and they give me motivation and inspiration because just the nature of what they do every day is so selfless, like getting patients in and out and being with nurses and doctors. It puts things in perspective. Yeah. Like, okay, this is hard, but I can do it. Somebody said, we're not curing cancer every day. I'm not curing cancer. I can handle it, you know. Yeah. So that helps me keep things in perspective. I try to just draw on the energy of my team, too. I have so many talented people, and lifting them up gives me energy. So how can I help somebody be a better version of themselves? And that gives me energy as well. But it's hard. It's hard work.
It's not easy.
No.
If you can remember back to the moment when, however the conversation went, but essentially when you were asked to come into a leadership role, marketing leadership role, if you go back to that time, what over the first 90 days of that new role would you have maybe done differently given what you know now? Or you're like, I would definitely do that different.
Going into UCLA, I would have done it differently. I did something going into Penn that made me think, why don't I do this every time like I'm starting a new job? And that was doing something that's a really big deal early in.
Okay.
So we were opening a new building. It was called the Pavilion. Our CEO wanted everybody to be excited about it. It's like this incredible building that's all like smart building of the future, and you feel like you're in just another dimension when you're there. And he wanted to make a big deal out of it. And thinking out of the box and taking that moment to embrace it and make a big deal out of it, even though there was a million other things I could have done and should have done. I could have made my 90-day plan. There's so many things I could have done. But we made a big deal out of it. We did a drone show in the sky. We had partners. We had the 76ers involved. We had the Flyers involved. We had Gritty in our hospital. You know Gritty. Everyone in Canada knows Gritty. We had Gritty sitting in a hospital bed watching one of the smart TVs and the helicopter. And we just did really cool stuff like that, which is not our norm.
Yeah.
And it sets such a positive precedent for what's possible in marketing. So I think when you start a new place, do something different, unique, and that's a big deal. And then everybody's on your side.
That's interesting. Usually the answers that I get are 90-day plan.
Yeah. Right.
So what? Because it creates a sense of energy momentum for the team? Okay.
Energy momentum for the team, and then other people being like, oh, we've never done anything like that before. So people who may have been skeptical of marketing feeling like, well, they did that really cool thing. You just get faith from the organization.
But what happens if you set the bar?
Oh, that's what I'm struggling with now. So everybody wants to do drone shows all the time. But I think it still works because you're able to say, this is what's possible, and give us some space from doing, away from the busy work. And we'll do cool things because we can. So it works more in our favor, but setting the bar is an issue.
I understand.
Yeah.
We've only known each other for 25 minutes, so I hope you trust me enough to answer this question. And it is, what about this game, this journey, and this role you play causes a little bit of fear for you, or painful thoughts?
In marketing, or
as a marketing leader specifically?
I think I always feel like I could be doing it better. That's sort of the fear is, what if there's something I could have done better? What if I could have solved that problem differently? Do people understand what I do? Am I going to continue to be relevant? So I think this role is one that you can't just sit around and stick to your formula. Right. You have to change. You have to evolve. And I'm always like, am I going fast enough? Am I doing enough? So maybe that's a personality trait. I don't know.
Do you just live with that and dwell on it, or do you do anything to quiet that?
I think it drives me to make sure that I'm not accepting status quo because it's easier.
Right.
Which I think is a good thing, but it is a little bit of a fear-driven thing.
Right.
I don't want to be that person. I don't want to just sit around and, have things run.
Got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that is probably part of your makeup.
Yeah.
So much a part of successful marketing systems are their ability to be integrated across different departments, different stakeholders, having a sense of co-creation. What do you do, or what's been your approach to not only do the work, but make sure that it's integrated across the critical departments and stakeholders that need to have either an understanding of it or a very active role in its fulfillment?
I think for us, we have a lot of stakeholders because we support doctors and departments, and then divisions within departments, and then the higher level administration, and then we have multiple hospitals, lots of different kinds of healthcare facilities. We have the School of Medicine. So it's a world of complex stakeholders, and what really works is bringing data, because you want them to know that you're thoughtful and you're looking at measurement. That's something they can relate to. But also, I think our best way of engaging is listening. And a lot of times our teams can get stressed, like they want me to do this, they want me to do that. And I'm always like, just get under it. Like, what are they trying to achieve? Make them a partner in the end result as opposed to the tactic or the thing they're asking for. So it takes a lot of work because you have to be out there listening a lot. But that's what I encourage.
Yeah, I think people support what they help create in some degree, right?
Yeah.
And if you rob them of that experience, then it becomes, you're always defending the
That's
campaign.
right. Yeah.
Your turn to ask me a question.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. The first thing I thought when you mentioned asking a question was, you do this all the time. You talk to so many people. What are some common themes that you see?
Well, one big common theme at this recognizing that the role as it's been defined on the job description is 25% of the role. And I've learned that a big part of marketing leaders' journeys is identifying what else makes up that 75% and then establishing their own version of it. And a lot of them have been, supporting team, obviously, getting things out of the way, being better communicator internally, understanding who are the actual stakeholders and what are the actual, but then as they navigate that, being able to just be content that the direction they've established for themselves is right, as long as it's consistent, and that they don't need to listen to all of the different opinions and perspectives, but it requires a sense of conviction, because the team and the stakeholders are looking for steadiness, and and so it's been what's emerged for me is a lot of inner dialogue turned into action and conviction.
Wow,
and
that's interesting.
Yeah, it has been very interesting, and it is proving the hypothesis of this show, which is there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, and to play this game. So it feels nice that that's validated, I guess.
Yeah.
And we're all figuring it out. I think that's the other thing too. We have award shows and getting nominated for Brand of the Year, but at the end of the day, we're all figuring it out, and we need kind of each other.
And it is interesting because we come here, we sort of feel like, oh my God, these brands are so cool and they know everything, and we haven't figured it out. Right. So
it's not true.
Not true. Yeah.
So when you close your eyes and think about Penn Medicine 6 months, a year from now, 2 years from now, what are some of the things that come into clarity for you, and what role does your function or your team need to play to make that a reality?
I think we need to be dually focused in this world of imagination, pushing the envelope, really always doing something new and interesting, and data at the same time, understanding our finances, what drives the business, what's actually happening when we market. And where I see that is just giving us more and more credibility to have more and more freedom to do cooler stuff.
Yeah.
I also think Penn has to continue to think of ourselves like a General Electric or some of these organizations that they're not talking about what they do. Like I hate to say Apple because everybody says Apple,
sure.
But they're not talking about computers or iPhones, or they're talking about innovation and a position in the world. And so I see that for Penn, because we are one of those big players. We just don't act like it.
That's an identity thing. And believing in your own self.
Our own magic. We have to believe in it. Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for sharing a bit of your journey in the playbook you've established in this crazy game, and that allows for so many different playbooks. Thanks for sharing yours. And everyone, my guest, Tanya Andreadis.
Thank you.